Hello again, everybody. I just thought to talk a little bit today about 7 things that I think are really key in creating a fantastic brand and product for the 21st century market. And I think that any brand that follows these principles will be really, really well positioned to be successful and ensure that they achieve their objectives. So when I work with clients, I spend a lot of time looking at these 7 particular aspects of their brand and business and their idea to make sure that we get it absolutely right. Um, Often clients will come to me with an idea that they already have, or a product that they've done some development work with, um, or indeed it might just be something that they've seen out there already and they think they can produce something that's better than the existing product. So we sit down and talk about their idea, and the thing I'm really always keen to understand is what need does my client think this product meets? Is it an existing need, or is it a new need? Is it an unfulfilled need? Is it be competing with existing brands, or is it going to be something that's completely unique and new? And as I said in one of my previous talks, it's really, really difficult, if not nigh impossible these days, to come to market with something that's completely new and that's never been done before. So it's all about nuances, it's all about subtleties, it's all about really, really understanding what you're doing and how you're doing it, and optimizing every element of your product, your brand communication, understanding who your audience is, how you talk to them, etc., etc. So I think the look at initially with them is research. Do understand the market that we're coming into? Do you understand who the competitors are? Do you understand the routes to market? Do you understand where the position sits? What size should the product be? What price point can it be? Etc. Etc. And then looking at the product itself, people often come to me, as I say, with products that they've developed, but often say to them, look, is this really as good as it can be? Do you need to go again? Do you need to have another go? Um, are you really, really sure that you can't do any more to make it even better than it is right now? Because customers won't give you a second chance. It doesn't matter what we do collectively in terms of creating a brand and packaging and getting listings and all those kind of things. If the product just doesn't really work, if it doesn't hit the spot, then sadly it's not going to be around for very long. Consumers these days are really, really discerning, and they don't accept second best. I think that's very evident by the sort of change in food service, where we've seen this whole tier of mid-tier eateries just find the conditions really, really challenging, trading conditions really challenging, as consumers have just sought out something better and gone predominantly to independence, because for these guys, their livelihood depends on it. It's not just a pay packet; it's their livelihood. So if they can't deliver great food with great service and a great experience, then it's bad news for them. So with all the things going on, consumers really do want products that are fantastic, not good, but just absolutely fantastic. So it's really important to do that. Your brand and packaging is obviously integral, and to some degree, potentially the most important part of what you're doing with a new product. But you can't work on your brand and packaging until you know you've got your product right. And I've already talked about product size and pricing, but also we need to think about how this product's going to be manufactured. You know, who's going to do that? Are you doing it? You're outsourcing it to somebody else? What production capability do they have? Do they have right machinery to package your product in the way that you envisage it being packaged? Is it practical? Is it cost effective? Will it give the shelf life that you need? So all these elements need to be thought about on the sort of the practical physical side of the packaging. But then, more importantly, is the element of the on-brand communication, the on-pack communication. Is that optimised in the way that it could be? Is it as good as it can be? And every word is so important. Less is absolutely more. So it really is about making sure that you're not using lots of words. You're using as few as possible, and really, really carefully thinking about every single one of those words. Financials, bugbear for lots of people. It's something that lots of clients don't feel comfortable with, but it's so important that we get them right. We have to understand not only all the metrics around bringing your product to market, but how we're going to support it when you get there. Every conversation I've ever had with a retailer, potential retailer, with a client listing is, well, how are you going to build the brand? I'm not going to do it for you. I'm going to give you shelf space, but what are you going to do about making sure that your product works? So it's not enough just to think about the money involved in creating your products and your brand and getting it out there. you've really seriously got to think about how you're going to promote it when it is there. And most retailers will look for at least one price promotion at the very least per year, often much more than that. And making sure that you understand their margin expectations, making sure that you've got really robust supply chain in place for your ingredients to make sure that you're protected potentially against increasing costs, etc. All those things are really important. And getting your detailed marketing plan in place, because if you don't do that, you can't do the numbers and you can't work out how it's going to work. And you can very simply do some metrics about, okay, well, if you want to be, a 500,000 turnover brand in year one, or a million turnover brand in year one, or indeed even greater than that, we can very quickly do some metrics together to say, these are the cash implications for your business. You're going to need 90-day cash flow funding, working capital in your business. So is that achievable within your overall plan in terms of what you're looking to do? And of course, routes to market. Retailers do not have infinite shelf space, so they're not waiting, and they're not sitting there waiting for a new brand to come along and say, "That's fantastic new product. Listen me straight away." That's not how it works. It can take 6 months, it can take a year, it can take even longer. Having conversations with retailers, so it's really important when we're looking at those routes to markets to think about, okay, we might have a key target that might be a Waitrose or a Sainsbury's or wherever it might be. But who else do we need to have in that mix? There's no point in just focusing on one. We need to focus on a number and have conversations very early on with them, and make sure that we understand when their category review periods are, as they're called, so that we're ready to talk to them at the right time. And going back to what I said right at the start, what needs your product meet? Because if it is just absolutely me too, and no different to any other product on the shelf, then it's a big risk for a retailer to even consider taking you and putting you on the shelf, because he's got products there, they've got a proven rate of sale. Some of them will be fantastic, some of them are mediocre, and some of them will be poor, and it'll be the products that are poor that will be looking to replace, but he won't want to replace them with a product that he doesn't believe has got everything it needs to be more successful than the product is delisting. So all the things are really important. I've mentioned margins already. That's really important, as is understanding their brand expectations. The marketing plan, again, really, really important. Make sure that it's in place and everybody knows what you're doing. And of course, everybody often talks about web-based sales. Just because you're on the web and you've got the advantage of not showing some of your margin with retailers, it doesn't mean to say that being on a web space and creating an audience is free. It isn't. The great thing that retailers give you is they give you fantastic visibility and the ability for your product to be in front of people. Online, you've got to create that shop window or that shelving. You've got to find ways of getting your product in front of people, and that doesn't happen for nothing. So again, there's potentially be spend with promotional activity, sampling activity, social media activity, Facebook advertising, whatever it might be, to make sure that people are aware of your product before you launch, so that you can kick off very, very quickly. Talking about launch, if you're looking to talk to a retailer, it's really important that you can demonstrate proof of demand before you even go there. It's really, really hard to go to a retailer, not impossible, but it is really hard to go to a retailer without any proven sales whatsoever. If you haven't got any proven sales, your product's got to be pretty exceptional. It's got to be supplying or meeting demand that perhaps their current products don't do, or it's got to be really exceptional in some other aspect, because otherwise they'll definitely be looking to you to say, okay, well, where is the demand? How much have you sold? Where you've been selling? All those kind of things. The other reason why that initial following is important, those initial sales are important, because that's how you build your hardcore customer base, your very loyal consumers, what are called your brand ambassadors, the people that will talk to you, talk to their friends about you, about how fantastic you are and why they should buy you. They're the people that tend to be very vocal about your brand, and critically they create this very, very solid launch pad to get you started and get in a position where your rates of sale can increase quite quickly by using their word of mouth to talk to all the people that they know. And combined with social media, that can be really powerful, because these people can amplify every message that you're saying through their audience and make sure that everybody knows about that should know about you. And these vocal brand ambassadors are really, really important. Free PR at this stage, whether it's local radio, local press are really, really important. The reason why those are important, because often that content gets picked up by nationals and by magazines. A lot of work, a lot of media coverage is syndicated these days, and rather than people going out and creating their own new content, they'll search around to see what the stories are out there. So that kind of local coverage can really, really help you. Um, and also, again, it can help you with this really strong brand loyalty following that's so important early on. Combined with that, I'm also a great believer, wherever it's possible, what I call an intense distribution hotspot. One of the challenges of working with major retailers is the way that they categorise their stores. Often means is that when they've agreed to list you, they'll send a briefing to their logistics team and say, this brand is X, their consumers are Y. Indicate to me the top 70 stores or wherever it might be that's got a high density of those of that audience. They'll go away, do those numbers, and they come back with a map that's got 70 stores located all over the UK. It might look fantastic, but actually it's a complete nightmare, because what that means is that it's very, very difficult to get any intense distribution in one particular area, and that also means it's very, very difficult for consumers to see the product very regularly, because most consumers don't shop regularly in one store. They shop in 3 or 4 stores, depending on where they are during the week, whether they're going to or from work, and they should shop differently at the weekend as well. Even if they're store loyal, they might shop in a different location. So that launch strategy can be really, really problematic. So I often talk to retailers and try and persuade them, please, 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 at least give us 4 or 5 stores or 10 stores or whatever it might be in a relatively limited geographical area, because from there we can create the kind of dense following that we need, get our products in front of consumers often, start to grow the sales, and then we can amplify that effect across other areas. So that's really important. Being smart about your marketing is really key. Outthink, don't outspend. Think about clever initiatives that enable you to do that. And then once you're there, build and grow. So look at what you've done in one area, how you've achieved what you've done. Think about multiplying that across the UK. Look at new channels, look at new retailers that might be appropriate to you, and potentially even new audiences. So I hope that helps, and more to follow over the next few weeks. Thanks.